Welcome to episode 98 of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Teddy, and joining me this week, a man who was greatly missed this week, is my weekly compadre who moans with me as we collectively roll our eyes around the stupid Chain Guards XP gain. Give it up for the only, the one, and I'm reading all of this backwards, Gaz! Say hi, Gaz.
Hi, Gaz. How are we going? I did miss the scenario and miss the banter and miss the fun. I managed to catch some of the playthrough to have a little bit of an idea, and I was in exactly XP gain from the Chain Guard. I think turn one, Mark did some card where he gave himself Retaliate and Shield and this little thing that moves along, and he gets to heal himself and a whole bunch of I don't know, and he played it. And then I think Phil or you were like XP, and that he was like no, and they're like, oh, it's a lot of text for no XP. Okay. And then I think the next turn or something, because it procced a bunch of times, and then he's just like, oh yeah, I have like 2 XP things.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, of course. All right, there we go.
Yeah, so that card is, I can't remember the name of it, level 5 card, but it is, it's got those 5 different spots that go over it, and he can choose if he wants 2 shield or 1 retaliate every time he gets hit and it moves along the charge. And then at the end of the round, for every thing that didn't move, for the unmoved spots, he heals 1 for each one. So if he just plays it just out of turn, he heals 5 and gains an XP. And then if he plays the bottom of that other one, he heals 3 and gains an XP. So essentially, on those turns where you've got nothing to do, it's a heal 8, gain 2 XP.
Yeah, it seems fine and balanced. I feel like most of the classes can just do something simple like heal themselves for 8 and gain 2 XP, right?
Yeah, well, I can heal myself for 3 and not get an XP, so...
I know, I can heal everybody for 3 and not get any XP, so...
I've compiled a cute little list. Let me know if this is right or not, of the Chain Guard list, okay? Sustain health. It's got a lot of sustain, right? Through self-healing. All right, tick. High health pool, so it tanks through its health pool. Does have some defensive options. He's got some shields here and there on some of the cards, including the card he just got. Crowd control through swing and shackle. Yeah. Map control through traps. Conditions via wound and poison, and I think he's got stuns and other things in there as well, and muddle. Very mobile, like insanely mobile. He moved through, I think, 3 room tiles this week with 2 cards, none of which were a teleport. He's got an incredibly high damage burn. I think he's got 2 of them, actually, or something that just allows him to transform into a DPS beast.
Well, even not burn, he has like some good, like... his double KO, which is an attack 4, and if it dies, another attack 4.
Yep.
Just having an attack 4 is pretty good, let alone something that can turn into targeting 2 things.
That's right. And then sneezing grants XP. And then S tier for avoiding elemental granting for the rest of the party. Because he doesn't really help us with any of that. And A tier for cockiness. Does this wrap up the Chain Guard as a whole? Do you think it has a weakness?
I think the weakness is that it doesn't have many hoops to jump through, so it's like impossible not to be able to do anything you want at all times.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not a weakness. Sorry, that's a strength. No, I don't think so. I think if I can think of one weakness, it's flying monsters, maybe.
Yeah. Even though he can bring one of those down with one of his cards, so...
Correct. Well, he has a tool for doing it, and there's a bunch of other characters we've seen, like the Meteor and Trap. I know the Trap had capacity to bring things down, but probably not as easily, but it had more reliance on needing to as well. Like, we've seen if, Mark wants to fight things that are flying, he just punches them a bunch.
Yeah, no, he does.
So, yeah, it seems like a really good, like, all-round character that is probably... It doesn't excel at most of those things, but it's really high, right? Like, it's not like a 5 out of 10 for all of them. It's like an 8 out of 10 for all of them. So it's probably better than most characters at the sustain, at like the, lockdown and things like that. There might be some that are better, but then they're shitter at heaps of other stuff. So,
and this is like, I guess, a casual opinion from a bunch of casuals like us. So,
oh yeah, totally.
What was I going to say? Oh, there's one battle goal that I think he will never be able to achieve, and it's the one that generates 7 or less XP.
I had that conversation.
I actually don't think that's doable.
That's
Borderline
true.
impossible.
That's true. So, yeah, and it's interesting because we had that conversation last week, I think, and there was some discussion about, we were talking about Frosthaven characters or starters more versus the starters we've had in Crimson Scales and kind of balancing their power level. And we were of the opinion, get right or wrong, but it was just our kind of view that the Frosthaven characters were probably less powerful than the Crimson Scales one. But it was pointed out, well, some people thought that it's probably the other way around, and that the Crimson Scales campaign is actually easier, which makes sense. I don't think, if Chain Guard was in Frosthaven, I feel like it would be one of the best characters.
I can't really argue with that, but yeah, I guess my knowledge is a little bit limited.
But
I'd have to sit here and actually think about it.
Yeah, it's a small sample size of people discussing, but people were trying to convince me that the Blink Blade was no good. Okay, sure.
Who said that?
Just discussion in not no good. No good is probably misquoting somebody, but they definitely didn't have them at the top. Same with a lot of it was around the kelp and how powerful the kelp is.
Yeah, okay.
But apparently kelp isn't that good.
Yeah. Open the box of power potion conversation again. Hey, let's just bring it out every couple of months and just leave it.
Actually, that's a really good point as I think to wrap up, looking at the Chain Guard, for example. He doesn't really have a reliance on items. So I feel like the jump boots he got with the +1 move and jump, right? Like they're really powerful. We talked about them, how good they were. They just unlock a lot of flexibility with him because I don't know if he has a lot of jump cards. So that kind of goes, if he's in a tough spot, he can get out of it and reposition, which is really powerful. But in saying that, I think without those boots, or even if he just had normal jump boots, I feel like he'd still be able to function. It just would require a little bit more planning, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to make sure you don't get yourself stuck. He doesn't need power pots.
He's got one.
Pardon?
He's carrying one.
Oh, well, yeah, he's carrying. Of course, he's carrying one because why would you not? But he's carrying one. He doesn't really need the health pot either because he's got a lot of sustain. As in, all of those things are beneficial. So I'm not saying he can't use them, but we talk about some of the characters that the power pot takes it from S tier to I don't know what's above S,
credit card.
Yeah, credit card tier. Yeah. Those characters that are really good, and then you add broken items like power potion and et cetera, and they just become well, you just delete this room. Have a turn, delete room, have a turn, delete room. He doesn't have that reliance.
No.
And I don't know if there's anything that we've seen so far that if you gave to him, he would just be like, oh, okay, well, this is just absolutely busted.
Yeah. Some food for thought, just quickly. It'd be interesting if Mark wasn't grokking it, he wasn't really getting his head around it, and we were watching it. Because what I'm saying is he's piloting it exceptionally well, and I think that's what's helping to see its potential. So if he wasn't and he was struggling with it, even at this stage, we would be having a completely different conversation, potentially.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's probably a good call in case he listens to this, to say that this isn't one of those, the character, it pilots itself. You just have to put a player there and then it's fine, right? I feel like it does require, I don't think it has a lot of hoops, right? But it definitely is a sequencing that allows you to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
I think probably the best example I reckon I've seen of this compared to the Frosthaven characters is the Snowflake, right? The Snowflake didn't look complex to play, but the amount of DPS you squeezed out of that, I think, was where that was a 4 or 5 complexity, if you want to use that scale, right? I don't think it naturally just goes, here, do this kind of thing. And I feel like maybe that's the Chain Guard as well. I think the Chain Guard could probably, it could cut along and it could do some things, right? But I reckon that the difference between it just doing fine and then it doing really well, which is what we're seeing at the moment, comes down to the player. And that's the difference that Mark's making. I think the character would probably be fine even if you didn't get it. But yeah, the power level that we're talking about, that we're seeing, is probably more to do with Mark than the character.
Yeah, I think he's gotten very comfortable. He knows when he can go in. He knows what he can do. He knows his limitations. No, but that was before. No, that was before, 100%. No, he didn't back then, but that was practicing for now. We're at the point where he knows. And he's just crafted that new Retaliate armor, or bought from, I can't remember, we got it from hitting the 10 scenarios. So he's been opening up that book and going, how much is it again? How much is it again? And then collecting money. He's getting his pennies, and I think he's just bought it as well.
Yeah, Well, it's good because someone needs to do a bunch of damage, right? Like, and tank and all that stuff.
That's the worst part is, in the scenarios that we're having, it's very easy to be like, hey, you can just hold off that door while we go deal with that room. Because he can. We can't be left like that, but he can. But then we need him in the room that we're going to. So yeah, he's a very sought after person. Anyway, on today's episode, right after our dirt sheet, we'll be covering scenario 42, Unnatural Beasts. So that was a side scenario, I believe, that came from a road event that we had quite a while back, which was pretty cool. Yeah. We'll have a quick chat about an update on the Vortex and Galaxy. I need a little bit of a help with the Vortex with a card choice, as I have just hit level 5, which is pretty cool.
Spicy.
Yeah, so you can help me out with that because, I'm not too sure what to do with it. And then we've got House Rules Volume 4.
Oh, yes. I love House Rules. Yes.
Except this time I haven't gone through it myself. So, and handpicked it because as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's this week. Done. So we're going to go through that thread.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was just randomly on Reddit the other day and I think someone posted a picture of, maybe it was Jaws of the Lion or Gloomhaven, one of the two. It was just like, hey, just got this, anything I should know, right? And then 180 comments or something like that left on there.
I saw that. That's crazy.
I didn't really read much of it because I was just like, sure, whatever. Like, I'm sure all of the important things have been mentioned, and a whole bunch of shit that's wrong and not important has also been mentioned. But one of the comments I saw was basically like, hey, just play it how you want to and just make the rules as you go, whatever fits your group. It's just like, wow, okay, yes. Like, I 100% agree with that. And we've talked about this, right? Find your fun. But at the same point, make sure that there's a disclaimer of like, when you do that, you can't go online and complain about things not working properly. Play how your group wants to play, but then you also have to solve all the problems that creates. Yeah. You can't say, oh, we've skipped the leveling up process and we just get whatever we want. Game seems too easy, right? Like that's, So it's an interesting. So I'm looking forward to more house rule conversations.
I'm hoping in there are some juicy ones, but I'm suspecting it's going to be maybe rehashing existing ones. But either way, we'll have a bit of a look and we'll see what's there. So the dirt sheet, I think the biggest news in my life at the moment presently is that I can officially announce that we are pregnant. The reason I'm probably raising this is because it's going to create a little bit of uncertainty later on in the year regarding amDirt, but we'll be aiming to definitely do whatever we can to make it work, and there may be breaks involved, etc. But it's just more planting that seed just so that people are aware that this will come at some stage.
It's probably more news for Mark, right? Because that means he's about to get booted for the new baby, like as in like the spot.
I might boot myself, but I do enjoy watching him on the chain Helm. But yes, the unboxing will take place around August 13th. I'll be flying over to California, Santa Barbara. I don't know if we have any listeners in that area. I don't know US geography very well. I believe it's about 2 hours away from Los Angeles. But if anyone...
That's like near one of the coasts, isn't it?
I think so.
Is that West Coast?
Yes. Every time, you know what? My direction, left and right, I can get without a doubt. You know those people that just like use your left hand and they always have to do that half a second thing? For me, it's east and west. And whenever anyone says it, and I have to picture Australia, and then I have to picture Western Australia, and I'm like, that way. Okay, that's west.
Oh,
That's how I do it.
Yeah, it's a good point. I've never thought of that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I should be able to remember that a lot quicker now. That'll save me a second.
Yes. But yeah, if anyone is familiar with Santa Barbara, recommend me maybe a board game shop or some cafe, somewhere to eat, places to shop, etc. Let me know because I would love to. I think we'll be there for a couple of weeks. It's still up in the air. And I did suggest also, just a name for Bubs, and I was going with Moonshard, but I've officially been banned from making suggestions.
Please don't name it Moonshard. And them, sorry. I mean, are you going to chuck a poll up?
No,
Name my
I was
baby.
going to. I was going to be like, Moonshard, Ormy, Captain Olmsted. Oh, Gemini. Just there's so many great options, and this is beautiful words. In other dirt sheet news, I played a new game, and it was called Sky Team. All right, a lot of people may be familiar with this. It's a two-player cooperative game, and it's essentially you're playing with your partner, teammate, and you're landing planes at different airports around the world. And basically, the whole game is dice placement. You're placing dice on things like aerodynamics and the engines and the flaps and the brakes and keeping the axis straight. But you got to do the whole thing silently, so you can't see each other's dice as you've rolled them. They're hiding behind shields, but you take turns placing the dice, and it affects the plane's settings as you're heading for a landing. And things can go wrong. You can do a barrel roll and die, and everyone dies, and you can, crash, or you could overshoot, or you could hit a plane. There's so many things that could go on. I picked it up for, I think, 45, 50 AUD, and only because I saw that it was loved by a lot of people. And the theme does absolutely nothing for me, by the way.
That's just so you know, that's like $12 in the US.
Probably. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I sat down with Calvin. We played a few games of it recently, and my mind was blown at how much fun it was. It was actually really, really enjoyable. And fast forward to last Monday, because we finished our scenario relatively quickly on Monday, I put Phil and Mark to play. They were about to leave, and I was like, "No, Sky Team, have a quick game." And the game itself was very quick. It was about half an hour, and I'm watching these two have to do the silent and working together thing with the dice, and then between rounds you can communicate, we need a bit of that and a bit of that, etc. They almost made it, but they definitely crashed into Montreal, which was very unfortunate, but they both loved it. And I highly recommend, if you've got a partner at home that doesn't really play a lot of games with you necessarily because you've got a lot of games and it becomes overwhelming when you introduce them to them, this was perfect. From a very quick setup, very quick learning, and a lot of game. And there's a whole bunch of different airports that you can land at with different degrees of complexity. There's 20 in the box, maybe even more, and expansions come out with even more. Highly recommend.
Cool.
I'll show you next time you come around if you want to have a look at it. It's been one of the few games lately that I've tried that has actually blown my mind a bit. So big thumbs up.
Nice. Who's that made by?
That was designed by Luc Remond, I think, and it was published by Scorpion Musk.
Have they published or has they created anything else that I would know?
Quite possibly. I have not gone into it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so I have absolutely no idea, unfortunately. But very good, very good. I can see why people like it. And I think two-player co-op games that are quick and really do build up the working together, especially when you can't communicate. You learn to communicate through actions that you're taking, and you develop your own internal kind of meta. I think it's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of play style reminds me of what were we playing? What's that? There's the Crew, but what's that other one that we played with the numbers? Where you got to
the Mind?
Yeah, the Mind. Yeah, those ones where you've got to kind of get in sync with the other person's thinking to work together, but you're limited in what you can say and do. I really enjoy those because they're challenging, but when you get it right, it's this amazing feeling. Like when you both thought of the same thing. So that sounds really cool to be able to, a two-player version of that.
Like Honeybee. It's like that, right?
Yeah.
It's two-player. You can't really communicate you through your normal methods, but you develop your own way of communicating kind of what you're doing.
That's cool.
In a co-op game. Yeah. All right, Kaz. We head off to scenario 42. So tell me, how much of this have you watched?
I watched your events. So what was the name? Sheila? Is it Sheila?
Yes.
Just won't leave you alone. You have a new stalker. So apparently Sheila's everywhere. And then I saw you go through the first couple of rooms and get in there. I saw enough Mark to get a bunch of XP. Then I ran out of time. But from what I hear, the scenario didn't last much longer than that anyway. So
Yeah, pretty much. I think it was about 15 rounds or so, which was definitely different from the 21, 22 that was the week before. So from an editing point of view, it was much appreciated. But yeah, basically, I'm almost certain something has come up and Sheila's name has come up before, but I can't pinpoint where. If it was part of a scenario, if it was part of an event, or if, or somewhere in the campaign.
Well, because in the event, the city event, it mentioned her being a friend. I know you were, and I was very amazed, actually. I was very surprised with Phil's decision not to be greedy. And then that actually paying off with the unlocking of the scenario. Like, so it's almost like instant reward for his new leaf that he's turned over.
That's right.
I wonder, A, if he carried that through the scenario, and B, will this continue into future scenarios, or is it just a spike where he's just like, oh, I did it once. What do you mean I have to keep doing it?
I mean, he helped twice in both of these, because one of them was, I think she's complaining that she's inherited a manor and it gets haunted, so she wants us to clear it out. And it was like, do you want to be greedy and not do it? And that would have been, don't do the scenario, like you don't get it. But now we have a new scenario to do, which I think is 44, Haunted Mansion or Manor or something like that, which sounds very cool. Maybe there's some haunted Algox in there, who knows?
Oh, haunted mansion. That sounds like a Summers-esque. Like,
yeah, potentially.
Scenario.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then on the road event, we found Sheila again, just saying, "Hey, I'm real drunk." She was out drinking all night and needed a ride back to the mixed district.
Yep.
And it was like, help her or don't help her. And as a result of helping her, we all broke our feet items for the scenario at the very beginning, and we get a new event. So drunken adventure. Sheila's coming back, basically.
Yeah, basically,
like
she's
half
not
the
finished.
deck. Half the deck are going to be Sheila. So Sheila Haven.
Well, I'm glad I didn't miss the Vermlings coming back after the light bulb incident, because I'm keen to be involved with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So my understanding as well was this scenario was when we went into the forest and there was like some lady who was like, hey, like you have to leave the forest because it's really dangerous and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, nah, totally. We can just kill everything. She's like, oh, really? Oh, good. Here's a quest.
Yeah, do it now. And we're like, next time. And then we come every time we walk past, she's like, hey, you done it yet? You done it? One of those situations. Hey, we've done it. So we followed her directions into the forest, searching for the strange beasts that she described. The woods seem still until we notice the glowing red eyes watching us. A low growl rumbles from all sides, but the creatures don't strike. If we want answers, it looks like we'll have to go to them. So ultimately, from what you saw anyway, it's basically a kill 3 named. So scenario is complete when the Goring Grizzly, which is the bear elite, King Cobra, and Sly Wolf are dead. Read a thing at the end of that round. And you've essentially got the 4 tiles. Now, this is what I found interesting, was that middle tile that we started on came empty, which I thought was really interesting. And so there was no monsters immediately, and then you've got the 3 doors. And we assumed that there was going to be one of the 3 monster types behind each door, and that's exactly what it was. With one elite. But where things got spicy was the special rules around how to kill the elite ones that are in there. So it was refreshing to not have to kill everything, but also when I saw that we only had just to kill these 3 things, in my head I was like, how are they going to make this not a assassination job where you just blink to the back row and just blow up the thing? But no, they covered it really well. There was also an extra special rule for the scenario that was characters and character summons. You can't attack while occupying the starting tile, which was very cool. But you can perform attacks when you're in the doorway into the actual room. So which is kind of weird for our group because we kind of tank and spank in the door unless we go in. And any character can forego a top or a bottom to do a push 2, targeting one adjacent, which I mentioned at the beginning of that playthrough and figured that would be important for some reason. I can't work out how it may play into it, but yeah.
Yeah, so interestingly, I remember hearing that rule and you both all talking about how to use that and then didn't see how it played out. And you mentioning that you have to work out how you're going to kill the 3 things. So I just assumed that played part of it, but did it not at all?
Not really. There was a couple of instances, like the first room we went to was the Hound room, which was the biggest one at the top. And I think there was a spicy bit towards the end of coming out of that room where we got blocked up and Mark just left. And then he realized, oh, I can actually hit something or push something. And if he used it to push it, he ended up killing it. But you can sort of move things around maybe for that purpose. And maybe there were situations with people getting stuck. Actually, that's a good point. It could be getting into the room. If you're open the door but you're too late and they gather up around the door, you can't get in.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Because was there any flavor around the reason you can't fight in that middle corridor?
I think it was more around the fact that they have all three of them had their own habitats and they refused to leave their habitats, kind of thing.
Okay.
So you had to, in order to complete the quest from a thematic point of view of maybe removing the alphas, we had to go into their homes
so
to do it.
They couldn't move out of their rooms. Is that right?
I believe that they will not leave. They will not leave their rooms, and they can't find a focus on anyone that is not in
outside.
the room.
And so you can't attack from there, so you can't just sit there and range them. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Yeah, that's probably it, right? Like if you get stuck in the doorway, or if a monster moves into the doorway and you don't have jump, you're literally like, well, we can't move anything. Like you have no way out of it. So it sounds like it's just there to stop the thing getting booked.
Yeah, it would get potentially booked. Yeah, you're right. If you don't have jump or anything like that, even if you reset and go back into the room, they're still, because they're no longer finding a focus, they're not going to move away from the door. Like they're not going to go back to the back of the cave and like de-aggro in WoW or something like that. And you run too far.
It's an interesting way of putting it together with the three different habitats connected to that middle thing. I imagine that another way to, without the movement thing, would be make like portals. Like if you had three different portals that all went to a room that was separate, it's like not connected. So you have to move on to there and move into there. Similar, like what's that one that you really like where we would teleport down into, those two of us went down into the Frost
the way forward, 38.
Yeah. Something like that where like there's a portal that takes you to a completely different tile.
Yeah.
I like that idea as well in scenario, or like, to remove the gamingness of like doorway fighting and stuff like that. Just going like, well, they exist there, but they're not coming through. So that's cool.
Yeah. I don't think animals can make portals, but maybe they was trying to stick to a sort of factual thing there.
It sounds like it.
So with the Doggo room, for example, the boss that was in there was a Sly Wolf, right? It's an elite. It had 14 health based on our 3-player count, etc. And it had permanent invisibility, which was cool. Very interesting. And then whenever you kill one of the normals, it takes 3 damage. So it takes damage based on how many characters are in there. So it takes 3. So, and every time you kill a dog, a new one will spawn at the end of the round. So you're just basically cycling through dogs and doing damage to the thing, to the Sly Wolf. It was about probably 3/4 of the way through clearing this room that I realized, oh my god, we just can't target it because it's invis. So any pure damage, right? Like my jumping, and I think it's Innovating Strike or Empowered Assault, one of them too. I jump in, do 2 damage to it, and that's how I killed it. But I was just like, is there more pure damage and non-targeted damage like in our kit? Like, do you have anything in that instance?
Nah, no, I don't think so. All my stuff is targeted or informations or attacks. I think I maybe have a card that I don't take, but no, not really.
Yeah, okay. And one of the bold rules that actually carries on to all 3 is none of the monsters in the room will focus on enemies outside of the current tile, nor will they leave the tile. Mark did joke a couple of times in one of the other rooms that he could pull like the boss, the elite, into the middle one. You know, he's got one that he kind of shackles it and then leaps away and brings it with him. And I was like, I don't know what that's going to do, because like from an interesting rule mechanic point of view, if he brings it into the middle tile, which would have been amusing, does it do anything? But then we can't attack it. So it just gets weird.
I guess I wonder how the rules are worded in regards to if it just says it won't move into there, or if it can't. Like if it
just says it can't leave its tile.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that means that it
says nor will they leave the tile.
Nor will they, yeah, I don't know. Interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting mechanic. And that wolf room sounds like potentially really rough. Like how many normals did you have up at one time?
I think 3. I think we had 1 elite, which was the Sly Wolf, and I think 3 normals.
Yeah, I mean 4 wolves could do a lot of damage. Very quickly. We
could have lost in that room, and I'm not lost, sorry, but it would have been pretty catastrophic. We got unbelievably lucky with the wolf monster ability draws, in that there were some seriously clutch rounds where Phil and I needed to get go first and get out of out of the way, or at least attack something to reduce the incoming damage. And they didn't pull lower than us. And the one time they did, they just muddled us. And there was no immobilize either. So Mark on the first round, he goes in and they all swarm him and he gets mobilized. That was the only time we got immobilized. So it could have been absolutely messy once we killed the Sly Wolf and I, looted the chest and we were on our way out. That if they activated and then grabbed us, immobilized, and because of the +2 from, oh my God, it was actually quite stressful, but we lucked out big time and we actually managed to get through unscathed.
Yeah, okay. Do you know, and this is probably whether you know this or not for the others, do you know what changes in 4-player other than the boss's health, the mini boss's health?
I believe that you get more. You'd probably get another mob. Yeah. So I'm just trying to check the wolf room. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there'll be 4 normals instead of 3, and the elite.
Yeah,
that'll be the major change from the placement. With 3 people, there was 1 less wolf.
Yeah, cool.
Now there was a chest in this room. There's actually a chest in all 3 rooms, which is really cool. So we got 1 each. This was my first chest since scenario 1. Which is cool. And I got woven plate armor, which I don't know if you saw on the screen when I looted it, but when I get attacked, the attacker gains disadvantage on the attack, and I gain 2 shield for the attack. And it's decide it doesn't. I can choose when to use it.
Yeah,
so
cool.
I turn it sideways and it comes back. So I didn't have a chest piece, so this is great.
That's really good.
That's what I thought. I'm really happy with that.
You don't get attacked a lot, and so being able to choose when there's a big hit I think that's really cool, especially as well considering it's works on a rest. Is also good for long resting turns. You can trigger it before your long rest if you cool.
That's a good point.
That's awesome.
Did not consider that. We went to the bear room after that. Mark was very keen to go in there. The 3 of us had something set up. Now, when we opened the door, 3 of them were in a triangle right in front of us. Have you got up to that bit yet?
No, I have not. No.
Oh my God. So they were as soon as I saw that, I was just like, are you serious? So the plan was don't go into the room to then force them to move, because right now they can't find a focus. So just wait till I'm ready and then go in and do that. And I got off a nice obliterate with muddle disadvantage. Although the new orb I got, the orb of fortune, I think I used 1 charge in the wolf wing. That thing's amazing. Yeah. For those clutch hits, the one where I burned 3 Tide Pods and I attack for 6. Actually, that already comes with advantage, so I don't know why I'm talking about that. But there are some cards where I'm like, I need this to die so that I can move through it and all of that. That thing's amazing.
Advantage on a stick, advantage, kind of on request. It's funny, right? Because we've talked about this with some of the characters that have a really good access to advantage, and it almost. Well, yes, like me, and one of the reasons I didn't choose that path was that it takes some of the mystery of the game out. Like the AMD, and we've talked about this on and off, is kind of one of the more interesting elements of when you make a decision, how it goes. You can miss, you can do lower damage, you can crit, all those different things, right? It brings a spicy to it. But I remember it's probably more when Mark was playing the Kelp, because he had advantage so much that the AMD became almost irrelevant. It was just to see how high the number would go. There was unlikely to be a negative, and excluding my luck where I drew 2 curses when I had advantage. But so it's interesting because that sounds like a really cool item for when I need this to happen, but also that because it's 3 charges, right? Mm-hmm. Having 3 charges per scenario to say this attack here is not going to miss. Although with you and Muddle, it's probably still a bit more on the fence because it is still drawing a card, but it almost takes away that risk in a way, in a way of you know what? I'm just going to make sure that this happens.
Yeah.
Especially if it's I just need to get any damage through.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's the important thing is I'm not using it obviously to just big numbers and all that kind of stuff. I blow it on a massive thing. But if there's a crucial target I need for a battle goal or for a PQ or something, or just to even remove something so it makes other people's turns work better, it's very clutch for that. So really good item.
Yeah, it seems real powerful.
In this room, the trick for this one is the bear is not invisible, which is pretty cool. There's the Goring Grizzly in there, and it only comes with 2. And like I said, they're in a triangle formation. It's nice and easy. The Goring Grizzly has 3 shield. All right. Now, the normals didn't actually have any shield from memory. Let's see. No. The normals don't have any shield. So he has 3 shield. Whenever you kill a normal, though, it reduces the shield by 1. So that's how we get through it. And it's cool because you can obviously get through it with pure damage, and Phil's a Pierce machine as well. He's got Pierce on nearly every card as far as I know, and all of that. And Mark does a fair bit of pure with ragdolling things, which is pretty cool. And then this room was a bit of a wash. We kill, because of the obliterate, both of the normals is one's on 1 health and the other's on 3, which then Phil cleans up on his turn. And then Mark was planning a big turn in there, and it was like, well, I'm not going to do that now. So I think he socks the bear for a bit, and then he leaves to go towards the Viper room. So he leaves me and Phil with the bear, right? And that was fine. And then Phil said to me, can we leave a wound on it? Like, we'll hit it 2 more times and then wound it and then leave, right? And go towards the other room. And I was like, that's actually not a bad idea, because it still activates. It just can't find a focus. So they're just going to tick away. And I said to him, bears can't heal. I'm pretty sure bears don't have a heal card. Right? So I was like, okay. Yeah, that sounds like a great deal. So I think we had on maybe 4 or 5 health and a wound, and we're like, that should be fine. And we both leave. Okay, so we all head towards the last room. And there's also a chest in there we didn't get. So we head towards the last room, which we know is going to be the Viper room. And in the Viper room, for health comparison, the Doggo had 14 health, and it was taking 3 per everything dying. The Elite Bear had 17 health and 3 shield at the beginning. And then introducing the Cobra, it's got 44 health.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So 44 health. And its thing is it adds +1 to all its attacks, and it's immune to poison. Now, in the Doggo room, you got spawn tiles. So every time you kill them, they come back. And same with the Bear room, but not the Viper room. So it does come with normal Vipers as well. But yep.
Oh, so in the Bear room, there was the main bear and 2 bear mates, right? And when you killed a bear mate, the main bear's shield dropped by 1.
Yep.
But the bears respawned.
The bears will respawn at the end of the round. Any bears that were killed, so they'll be fresh in the next round.
And does his shield go back up? Or is it... Okay, so it's not like shield is equal to how many you're alive, but every one you kill drops it down. So once you've killed 3, then he would have no shield.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's more, I think, that while you're dealing with him, the constant influx of 11 health normal bears that will be coming in to make life a little bit difficult.
Yeah, so that makes more sense now why you left, because I was like, that seems really easy, because you could kill those other ones pretty quickly and then kill him. And it's like, dude on 5 health with, 1 shield maybe. Doesn't seem that hard, but if you've got bears coming at you, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, there was always 3 in there, even when you kill them. Whenever you damage one of the Vipers, right, the King Cobra will suffer an equal amount. The Vipers have 4 health. So no crazy shenanigans, because obviously, the 4 damage, there's no overkill.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yep.
So yeah, we were so comfortable by this stage because Barry McBear's ticking away in the other room that we had all the time in the world to set up what we were going to do in this room. And I got a very juicy Unto the Advance off that had a crit on one side and a null on the other, which was interesting. But it essentially came down to a tank and spank. Once you kill the Vipers, they don't come back. And then
okay. And then you just got hit. How many Vipers were there?
There were 3 plus on our difficulty. 3 normals and 1 elite.
Okay, so 4. So for 16. Okay, and how much you say you had? 48?
Yes.
So you kill them, then you still got like
30 the elite damage? Is him, by the way. The elite is
so there's
4 altogether.
3 and him.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you can only do 12 damage to him through his own dudes. Yeah, okay. Interesting.
So it was a fair bit of hell to get through, but Mark I think he did his merciless beatdown with hammer and power pot and double damage, all that. So he cracked it, which was great. We killed the Vipers. Phil did a massive loot too and got his chest, which, by the way, ended up becoming a steel helmet. And it's one of those helms that... Do you remember the helm that whenever you get crit, it becomes a +0, just permanently. This one's like that, but when you're attacked, consider any +1 modifier as a +0 instead. So it just removes,
What?
as a helm. Yeah.
All +1s become zeros
On you.
That's bonkers.
It's pretty good. It's not bad. I think he sold it immediately.
Of course. Why would you keep that item, right? Like,
because he wanted the amulet alive.
Oh my god, really?
Are you saying that you would have given up the amulet alive for that?
100%. That's amazing.
But it adds a -1 to your deck.
That's still totally worth it. I mean, I don't know if Mark has a helmet, but like that seems really.
Mark's
good
got goggles. Mark likes his goggles.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Especially for the big swing.
Am I just as a really quick pause there? Interested to get your thoughts on the helmet.
Look,
hits or shits.
I think this is pretty good. I actually think this is pretty good. I'm not frothing over it, but at the same time, I think it's really good from a helm that you don't really have to do anything, right? You're converting 5 of the +1s into +0s when you're getting attacked. So the only dangerous cards on you are going to be +2 and the crit, right? That's pretty good.
Yeah. So whenever anything attacks you, it does the damage that it's saying it's going to do outside of the crit and the +2.
Yeah.
Unless it's a negative.
Yeah.
That's really good. And if you can make them have muddle, right?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose having muddle's not actually that good because, like, unless they draw the double +1. But basically, yeah, okay. Wow, I think that's really good.
Yeah. The only other thing is I don't know how many helms we've unlocked or hats we've unlocked. So in comparison with what's there, this does seem pretty good. But yeah, we'll have to probably go back and have a look.
I suppose the other thing as well is Phil does have that crystallizer they called. I can't remember what the abilities. Yeah, that turns all the +1s and +2s into zeros. So
good point. He's been playing that.
Yeah, and so he's the only character in the game that has actually that ability to do the thing, and he managed to loot the item.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe there's a bit of a no-bo there. So yeah.
So Mark punches the big one for a big dump. I think it was 18 damage or something like that, and then left. And by leave, I think it was a move 6 plus his boots, so move 8, jumping down the corridor, and then the following turn, I think he did something very similar, and ended up making it all the way over to the chest, back in the bear room.
Okay.
Now, while this is all happening, Elite Bear's ticking away. I think Mark goes into the room and he's on 1 health, and the wound is still on him. And then Mark grabs him and just smashes him into a table or something, and he dies. So that was how we dealt with him. I think it was the following turn they drew their heal card, and it was just like, oh my god, they can heal, and we all realized and had a bit of a moment. And Wani was telling me actually when he was watching from the second I said that and we all left the room, he was then on, like, what do you call it? On the edge of his seat, waiting for the bear draw. Yeah, and then we killed the Viper. Basically, the rest of it was fairly self-explanatory, and I think it's fair to say that was fine. Mark was mentioning, we probably could have done this on a +1. Which I agree. I completely agree. And then he said +2, and I was like, well, hang on. Like, I can't stress this enough. That dog room, it looked comfortable if you watch the playthrough. But if they drew the immobilize and then any of those combinations, I reckon it would have screwed us. I probably would have been okay. It's Phil that I don't know what he can do from a get out of that situation. And his initiatives are also quite slow. So the dogs are obviously very fast. So it was a little bit tense.
Yeah, I mean, there is the possibility with the dogs, especially with there being 4 of them, that if they draw that's attack 3, with a +2 if they're next to an ally.
I think it's 2 at our level, but which is still attack 4. Like, gross.
4, even attack 4. If 4 of those are going into somebody, right? That person's probably burning cards, and that then slows you down. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think it's the tricky thing, and we've talked about this with the difficulty, is that you go, okay, well, in hindsight now we probably know you can do it on +1, and that's even still maybe even with some worse RNG on the monster abilities, but you don't know that. Like, there's nothing to tell you that, okay, this one's probably more straightforward.
Well, I think there's still the dot system.
Yeah, well, we've already also had a discussion about the dot system and how informative
Oh no,
that
there's
is.
no dot system.
No, okay, cool. Well, that's good.
Oh, I think I saw it in Gloomhaven Secretariat, which is something I bring
Okay.
up to the view of the scenarios at my PC. So yeah.
Yeah. So and it's hard without knowing and giving away. You don't want to have even a third party rating system of like, hey, this one is probably comfortably done at +1. It would kind of be cool, right? Just as a brainstorm kind of like pie in the sky idea. Community wise, when people complete it, right? They put down what difficulty level they've completed it at. Right. And I know this wouldn't be gospel because it's everyone's different, everyone plays different, everyone's different classes. But over hundreds of completions, you would get an average of what people completed it at. And I don't know, you'd have to filter the data somehow, but that might give you some kind of idea. So if you looked at this one and people like were completing it, I don't know, between 0 and 1 +1, then you could almost go like, okay, well, this is on that side of things, so maybe we can bump it up a bit. Like that would be cool. Even if it's not a useful resource, even from a data perspective.
I love that. I actually love that. I think that you could also filter it based on like our party consisted of 9 Vortex, 3 Galaxy. You could almost just, as a record of, you know, how many rounds it took you to beat that scenario and just what was your party makeup. That was it.
It's almost like one of those things that if the game was digital, right? Like if you could have this in a digital implementation where it could gather the data itself and then just do it without anyone doing any work.
Yeah.
But that would be cool from a 2.0 perspective of like recording that stuff, because we don't have a lot of that records going back to certain scenarios with Frosthaven. So yeah, maybe it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, someone out there, if this is your forte and you can put together something like this, do it. Because like do it, we'll spread the word. I think the word will spread anyway for 2.0. And it'll be ready just for people to then, from their group's experience, input the data from, you know, their campaign, and you can just collect that and it'll be fascinating to go through.
Yeah, something like just an anonymous website type thing that you can go to, pick the scenario number, and then put in which symbol you had, what level they were, and what difficulty you played it on, and maybe how many rounds that it took you. Just something simple like that. You don't want to get too granular with the detail. And then you could, like, I guess, use a reveal type button to check what the data is saying. So again, without any spoilers, but it just tells you, here's how many people have completed it and what players. Because the other interesting thing that would tell you as well is which player count people tend to struggle on. Because if you had a retry kind of tick box, it would be, because I know that, you know, people who have played that 2 players without having 4 characters who have said like there's certain scenarios that are just absolutely horrible on like 2 player. So that could also be a resource for people who might be struggling. You jump on there and go like, oh, I'm going to have a look at this. You're like, oh, wow, everyone who's done it on 2 players hates this, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, something like that would be cool.
Yeah. You could also put in your, not to make this the whole thing, but it's a pretty cool idea. You could also log your failures as well. It could almost add a, you know, what is the win rate percentage that you could put in there somewhere of, hey, are we struggling on this? Oh, wait, the win rate's like 14%, you know, cleanly. So yeah,
that's a really good point as well. Having some way of cleanly capturing, like, did people have to try it again and or drop the difficulty, or as you said, try it 3 times on +1 to get through it. Means it's probably a tricky scenario. So yeah,
okay. What were your thoughts on this scenario, guys?
Oh, it sounds great. It sounds
Would
really
you have
cool.
enjoyed it?
Yeah, I enjoyed the retelling of it. It sounds fun, and one of those ones that is almost a palate cleanser in a sense of like it's simple-ish from a rules perspective. You got to play a bunch of cool cards, do a bunch of cool things, and then you got to move on. So it doesn't. It's like a good one in between those stressful, like down to the wire scenarios that go for 20 odd rounds. So, but what were your thoughts on the scenario, Diddy, for someone who was actually there?
No, I really liked it. I think it was very palate cleansy, but the scenario was unique enough that it felt like fresh and good at the same time, instead of it's what I enjoyed the most was the middle bit that you can't attack from and you can't be focused in. I just thought that was really cool because it made it so much more relaxing, So moving between rooms, knowing that we're not going to get spawned on, we're not going to get attacked, it was kind of like your rests felt like rests, which was different, and feels like this has actually been quite relaxing. So I did enjoy it from that point of view. Yeah, I think you would have had fun with it. I'm just curious what would have been maybe different, but probably not much.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good one. Shame I missed it. So hopefully I'll be there next time.
I have a feeling Ormy dies in this because once he's in a room, he will stay in there.
Oh yeah, just fight forever.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll hold the wolves off, guys. You
Ormy
guys
becomes his own timer, basically. If you want to keep him alive, one person per attack, burn a card to stop him from dying.
Yep.
Because he's never coming out.
We have to leave someone to babysit him in each room. Yeah.
He just explains to him, dude, don't go in there because you'll latch onto something. It's endless spawns, and we're going to go that way. And he's like, cool, I'll get farm some XP. Endless spawns, endless drops, right?
It's interesting that the spawns don't stop once the main boss is dead.
Yes. No, it doesn't. According to what I read. So, yeah. I want to talk a little bit about Vortex, and you can talk about Galaxy if you want to at all. I'm getting close to retirement now that I've done a few more things in there. Do you know what my PQ is?
No, I don't. I can guess.
I'm at that point where I'm happy for you to know because it's not really a surprise anymore, and I'm very close to unlocking the scenario. Because once the scenario is unlocked, that's like the secretive bit's done, right?
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. Let's see. You want me to guess? I'm going to guess that your PQ revolves around burning cards and killing monsters with those cards.
It doesn't quite, but yes, it is very similar to that. It involves playing a burn card and having a monster die in the same round.
Any monster?
Any monster. So sometimes, I don't do my own kills. I just play. I go early and I play. You know how there's a burn card that I heal 7. Poison and wound that person gaining XP. That's a burn card. I play that when that thing's on 1 health and you're turning next and you're going to kill it. That gives me progress.
Oh, wow. And can you do this multiple times per scenario?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's really
20 times.
I have to do it 20 times.
Yeah.
That's a high number.
Yeah. Well, in the early stages, I was struggling to do it at all. So when I was trying to play catch up and burning cards, I had everyone constantly down my throat saying, why are we burning cards, right?
Yeah.
And that was exactly why.
Yeah, that's right.
I managed to get 3 off this time because it was a nice chill one.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Now that would be very different on different characters. So if I had that one, for example, I would very, very struggle with it. I'd struggle with that a lot. Because I only have 1 burn card that is not like a persistent, right? Because that doesn't count, yeah?
No, I think it does.
Is it the turn you play it or the turn that it burns?
As in, I think you just have to play it.
So if I don't have a persistent, for example.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about doing it on other characters and it would seem, yeah, okay, cool. Oh, yeah, that's fun.
This is also where at the beginning with the 3 of you, I was struggling to sometimes go, especially you, earlier than you guys, just so I could play the burn and then guys kill whatever you want. But a lot of the times, if I'm going 3rd or 4th, I can kill on my turn, maybe. But sometimes, it was trying to time the things up. And there were times that I'd play one and something would go on 1 health, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like, we didn't kill it. So, yeah.
And so do you need to, you have to play it before the thing dies?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yes.
Interesting.
It can't be retro. Yeah.
Interesting. So,
yep.
Yeah, no, keep going.
Oh, no, I was just moving on to a couple of cards that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, okay, cool. I was going to say, do you want to know mine or do you want to wait until I unlock the scenario and have that discussion?
All right.
Oh, hang on, wait. Before you say anything, I'm going to call this and say, no, I want to wait because mine is a lot... Mine is a lot easier to game if everybody knows what I'm trying to do.
That's fair.
Right. And I like the fact that, and I know you've probably worked it out by now or people have started to work it out, but I like that I'm still able to do it and try to do it without anybody knowing what I'm doing. And it's really actually quite fucking hard.
Yes.
So that's adds extra layers onto it. And
you don't have to say anything. I'm just going to talk out loud.
No, don't,
people.
because
Okay.
Okay, all right.
I was going to say, you don't have to say, like, you don't have to confirm, deny, make a face or anything like that. I was just going to talk to the audience.
All right. Well, I'm going to say no comment, regardless of what you
Perfect.
say. So just everybody be aware that
I have deduced it's got something to do with health, because there's a whole health issue with I don't want to heal here and I'm sure and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that was tied to a battle goal. I'm almost certain that was tied to something he's trying to do. And the other one is it's got something to do with rounds. I will not take this information into the game. I'll forget. But yeah, it's got something to do with, like, because last time we played, I think he was one round off something. So some weird combination of those. We'll see what he does next time. I'll be watching him with a microscope.
All right. Well, I will say no comment, but
Yes.
I'll also add, just to add spice, that you are very close with one of those and completely wrong with another one. So without knowing which one, you can try and figure that out.
Yeah.
But I'm one away from undoing that and then unlocking the scenario. So I feel like if I can get that done in the next session, then we can talk about it next week. And
Perfect.
I can explain why this one's been fun and a nightmare.
Yeah. You wouldn't have it any other way. I
really wouldn't. And and it's interesting because I'll talk more about it when I can fully go into it. So anyway, hit us with these cards. I'm keen. I'll bring up thingy so I can follow along.
Well, I just want to talk about a couple of staples. For full disclosure, I'm very, very, very much enjoying playing the Vortex. It easily is starting to become one of my favorite characters, and I'm loving. Yeah, like in All Haven, I'm loving how flexible it feels. In terms of, I feel like every round I've got a bunch of different choices, and I'm getting used to executing them quite effectively, and managing the resource, which is the Tide Pods and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to shout out to some of my favorite cards at the moment. Obviously, Untethered Advance as a level 1 card is when you're planning around it and you've got teammates that are helping you with it. The 2 attack 4s is just very good, like really good at level 1. And we've gotten very good at getting these off. The AMD flips are a little questionable, but I think that it's been very good. And the bottom has also been very useful as a move 3. And then I can destroy an obstacle, which I do. I use both the top and the bottom a lot. So this is 100% going in my hand, I think, for the rest of the career. Shrouded Grasp was the level 2 card I picked. Go for it.
Oh, I was going to say, interestingly enough, on Untethered Advance, you can upgrade the damage to attack 3 with a dot. So in a world where we are either later in the campaign, have more access to gold, enchanting, whatever it is, making that to attack 5s.
Yeah.
And it's a level 1 card, so that's not super expensive to do.
No, it's just like from this scenario, I don't think I looted the coin. I'm very bad at looting coins now because I think I need to be in certain positions, and I'm not really thinking so much about maximizing that part to stay relatively effective. My level 2 card that I absolutely love, out of the ones and all that, there are not as many that I love as much as Untethered Advance. Shrouded Grasp has been amazing. It's been such a clutch card. That bottom, ever since I saw that bottom, the move 2 pull 2 at range 3, just for getting in the exact position I want to, and the monster at the same time, and the Tide Pod as well, has been fantastic. And the top, I've found some uses for it, especially in the later scenarios with the Invis. So provided I can get Dark up, and you've been helping me with that a little bit on some of the scenarios where it was crucial, it's a phenomenal card, and I'm really happy with it.
It's got pretty good initiative as well for your cards anyway. Like 23 is
I
decent.
use that a lot. Yeah.
So, you're right. Like, thinking about that, I wouldn't look at the bottom of that and go, okay, that looks like a good setup card. But thinking about where the positioning is for things like Untethered Advance, right? Being able to move and pull 2 to move something into the right distance, and also giving you a Tide Pod that you can use, and going at 23, it is, right? Like, it does sound so. Yeah, that's cool that you've kind of identified that.
Yeah, no, it's been a big staple. And then Empowered Assault. This card, the bottom of this card is borderline broken. Just from the suffer 2 damage getting 2 Tide Pods. It enables so much. Like, even if I wanted it for Untethered Advance, I'm getting 2 Tide Pods, and one of them I can burn immediately for a Teleport 4 to then get wherever the hell I want within range 4 to then do the top action of the other card. And there's a Dark Stun in there as well. Which I don't get off very often because I don't plan for the stun part. I'm planning for the Tide Pod part. So It's so good. And the top as a move 1 on top, move and attack, brilliant. I think there's a teleport in there, but it has come in handy. But no, the bottom of this card is another mainstay card that I love.
It's really interesting because at the bottom of that doesn't seem amazing. Well, no, sorry. The bottom of that seems ridiculously hard to evaluate without knowing how the character works.
Yeah.
Like suffering 2 damage to gain 2 of your resource, it's not even the amount of damage you're taking. And then it doesn't have a move on it unless you spend one of those resources that you just got. And then the stun is only up if you do Eat the Dark, which you can use for so many other things. Like if you're using that for untethered advance, right? Then you're using it, you brother the plus potentially that's move 2. So yeah, it's again, I love these cards because that getting that at level 3 probably doesn't really go, yeah, it seems pretty good, but that's fine, whatever. But it sounds like as you've gotten later, the power of it's kept going up because you're like, early, I can gain 2 Tide Pods, I can teleport if I need to, and potentially unlock, another really big attack or combo. So
yeah. What I love about also just getting so familiar with the cards, and it's just second nature now, is that when I've been listening to the amGirt crew doing theirs, whenever I hear Slayer, who's playing Vortex in their group, and he's going through his turns, and he's just like, okay, I move 1, I attack 4 here, or I'm going to do damage to myself. I can see everything that's happening, and I'm not even watching. So I'm doing my own thing, I'm listening to the background, and I can visualize his whole turn, which is really cool. I do like that. I need some help, guys.
All right.
So, level 5, I have Sever Reality, and we also have Stalking Quarry. So, Sever Reality, destroy an adjacent obstacle as a top. Destroy an adjacent obstacle if you do get a Tide Pod and 1 XP. I already like it. All right, I like the XP part. Be nice if there's an attack in here. Oh, attack 4 with wound, targeting 1 enemy adjacent to the destroyed obstacle. Now, at the time that I unlocked this and I read it at the end of the scenario, I wasn't sure. Like Phil mentioned, it's a melee, but I was just like, the way it's worded makes me think that I can hit something that's within range 2, provided the obstacle that was next to between us, basically. So 100%. It needs to be that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you don't have to be next to it.
But I wasn't 100% sure. No. Yeah. And then Create Dark, which is not bad. I do like. I'm lacking a little bit of Dark Generation. I'm sort of easing off things like Reaching Advance and all of that because reasons. And then the bottom of it is Void Sight. I haven't had a new Void Sight in a while, so it's nice to see another one. And then Tide Pod Teleportation, they're always useful. And an attack on the bottom. And a curse. So this card on its own is like a Blink Strike almost. The Void Sight's obviously very handy, but I can basically get, it's like a move 3, attack 2 on my bottom. Then I can then do my top action of whatever my other card is. Or vice versa to get away. It goes at a 78, so that's pretty slow. I like that. It's got a lot of things going for it. Now, any comments on that before we do some comparisons as we get to the other one?
Yeah, a couple really quickly. I don't know what other kind of combinations you have with Void Sight, but that, like, again, move 3 with teleport and attack 2 sounds great, right? Like on the bottom of a card. Not arguing that that's not good. The Void Sight into an attack 2 sounds a little bit annoying. Like, sometimes I feel like the Void Sight is helpful to set up a bigger attack next. Like, that you've got a crit coming, or you don't have a miss coming, right? Something like that. Or even looking at the top 2 going, I'm going to attack with Muddle so I know what both of them are and it'll go through. But having to, you don't have to because it's optional. But I feel like there's going to be times where you're actually probably going to skip the attack 2 because you're going to want, you're like, ooh, I've got a +2, I've got a crit coming. I don't want to do that on attack 2. So I'm going to skip it knowing my next turn is going to be really awesome. So there's a weird combination there that kind of maybe feels bad sometimes.
That weird combo has already been in my DNA from Touch of the Void, if you consider level 1 card. That one, so that's been with me since the start. I maybe bring it, maybe not. But it's got the Void Sight into an attack that also stuns something, right?
Oh,
yeah. So that's a hard decision for me to make because a lot of times I'm playing that for the stun, but the Void Sight's just the bonus. But then I'm trying to weigh up how best. Yeah, so it messes up with my head. As another example.
You're right. And I mean, even at best, that's still only eating the Tide Pod to make an attack too. So I mean, it does have XP on it. But yeah, okay, cool. So I can kind of see that's a theme. Which I mean, actually, as a theme, I don't mind. It's like have Voice Sight, which is really good, but it's going to go away. So it's like if it's a nothing Void Sight, sure, whatever. But if it's a really good one, it actually becomes a decision. I quite like that. And the top, I guess the only problem with the top on that Sever Reality is that it's the attack 4, which is fine, is very situational because I know there's a lot of obstacles, but you're not hard on the void pit thing, so you're probably not creating them. From my I've seen, you're not creating them on purpose. You're creating by accident because the card says when you kill something, you create a void pit. So I mean, potentially there is the world where that is actually not that hard to get off. But yeah, okay, interesting.
Thank you for that. That's a good point. It may be harder to get off on certain scenarios unless I'm actively planning. If I have to build my own obstacles, that will make things a little bit trickier, but not impossible.
But then in saying that, the bottom is easily spammable because, as you said, a move 3 with teleport attack 2 is infinitely good. It's like, I don't have much to do here. I'll just teleport over there and hit something, and then I will do another attack. Like, that in itself is probably enough reason to take the card. The top's a bonus. So yeah, all right.
Up against Stalking Quarry, goes at a 14. Like that is nice.
Oh, that be your fastest card? Oh no, obliterates 13. Okay,
obliterate.
Yeah.
So teleport 3 to a hex adjacent to an enemy that is adjacent to no other figure. So you single out something, which is pretty cool. I like that already. And teleport on top, we'd like attack 4. 2 Tide Pods to do +2 to the attack, making it an attack 6. So similar to the other one that I have, that's an attack 6 for 3 Tide Pods with advantage. And then if we burn dark, it does immobilize whatever you're hitting. So I like it. It's thematically cool, and that is also feeling blink strikey. The bottom of it is a move 4 shield 1 self for the round and dark. Oh, I hate that bottom. Like I'm sure it's fine and it's good, but compared to the 3 other panels I'm reading right now, it just looks so underwhelming. It looks so vanilla. So that's the conundrum I'm in. I know it's tough.
Yeah, it's tricky, and I'm not dissing either of the cards in this, but I feel like the reason this is hard is because both of those cards are fine. Like, the decision here isn't both these cards are bonkers and I don't know which bonkers card to take. And it's not a case of like they're both shit and I have to take one, because you're definitely taking one of these. I don't think you're going back to your previous cards. It's just tricky.
I think I'm taking Sever Reality. Now looking at this the reasoning, I will miss the 14 initiative, but I think I've got enough there and I've got Boots of Speed. The reason is I don't think I need another large attack. I've got quite a few even if they're attack 4s, I have the other attack 6 with the Void Consumes or whatever it's called. I don't know whether or not I need another big one like this on a single target, whereas the other one looks like it's more of a utility-based card that I can then slot to make my other cards probably perform better. And I think that's how I'm looking at it. The top is situational, yes, but the bottom is spammable. And yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm looking at. But I'd be very curious to see whether or not people are thinking of Stalking Quarry.
Yeah, I mean, there is a... Yeah, I agree with that reasoning. I think you'd be fine taking both of them. And I feel like the bottom of Stalking Quarry is probably playing into a world where you want to set up your positionals early and then tank your way through that turn. So you want to set up for an untethered advance, or if you were still taking nether blades, one of those, because you could move in, and move 4 is decent, especially if you can give yourself jump for some reason, and then you can set that up and then take the hits, I guess. But you're right, like you do that already in a way, so you don't really need the bottom, and so you're probably only using Stalking Quarry for the top. And you're right. Like if you've got enough cards that are big hits, or if you've got enough cards that you're eating 2 Tide Pods, because you don't really want to play Stalking Quarry if you're not eating the Tide Pods, right? So if you've already got enough ways that you spend those, right, then this kind of becomes a bit clunky because it means that you then start running really low on Tide Pods. And you potentially are in a world where you can't play the top of Stalking Quarry. I mean, Attack 4 is still pretty good, but it's not great. And then the bottom, you're not really that excited about. So, yeah, I think Sever Reality probably has the biggest upside.
Yeah.
I think you're right on that.
Yeah, this has been handy talking about this out loud and fleshing it out with you here. So, no, that felt good. Yeah.
So,
You're
yeah,
fired,
and even with the bottom of Sever Reality having the Void Sight, like a late teleport 3 with an attack and a curse. I mean, it's a fine way to finish off the round, is like hit something and curse them.
Yeah, I think there's 2 cards that I currently run. There's one card that I run consistently for the Void Sight, which is the Touch of the Void, the stun. Find an Opening Bottom has Void Sight on it as well, but I'm not bringing that as often unless we got a couple of Retaliate things. And there was also another one, the Invis and Disarm Myself one, that has it, and Netherblades as well. So Void Sight is not something I'm seeing a lot anymore, as much as I was at the beginning, but I've started to put the Void Sight AMD cards in my deck from the perks. So just the bottom of Sever Reality giving me another Void Sight, I think, is also going to be quite important.
Yeah, and there's a world in which, I mean, you've got 3 charges of advantage now, so it doesn't really make that much difference anymore. But there's a world in which using the bottom of Sever Reality into Untested Advance and skipping the attack is a Void Sight to look at your top 2 cards. They're both 0s or +1s. You're like, great, I'm just going to chuck it back on the top and do 2 attack 4s, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a world in which that mobility becomes okay depending on what you draw with your Void Sight. Like, yeah, so I think you're right. There's it probably the bottom is as useful as the top's going to be. So yeah, interesting. It's an interesting level 5 decision because I feel like the theme we usually go to is that level 5s are more, I don't want to say class defining, but they almost unlock some of the potential.
Yes.
And it kind of feels like Empowered Assault is almost more of a level 5 feeling card than these because it's unlocking potential. But maybe they needed to put that earlier because you couldn't wait till level 5 to get that because you would have struggled to, generate all that stuff leading up to. So
yeah. No, you're right. What I like about the Empowered Assault is obviously the 2 Tide Pods. Now, there are other ways to generate 2 in a turn, like Netherblades, but that requires 2 things on an angle, right? Yeah. Hitting both of those. This is just take 2 damage, and that's fine. Like, that's all I do. In fact, I did nothing, but I didn't get hit in the scenario, by the way. Oh, there was one turn we messed up towards the end, but I referenced it.
Yeah.
Anywho, let's jump over to our house rules conversation. So every year, someone opens up on Reddit a thread on the Gloomhaven subreddit, basically talking about house rules that you've incorporated into your Gloomhaven game, Jaws the Lion, Frosthaven, whatever. And it's a fun place for the community to come together and share what they may do differently in their groups, whether it be making the game a bit easier on themselves or making it a little bit more challenging, because that is a thing, or bits and pieces around battle goals, etc., etc. So I'm about to go in here and have a look, and I think the very first most upvoted one was something that we read last time, which was around when it comes to ambiguous monster movement or anything to do with monster ambiguity. If it's an elite, they're smart, and if it's a normal, they're dumb. So normally we choose when it's ambiguous, but as a house rules of adding a bit of spice to it and a bit of theme to it, of you've got these lieutenant style elites that know exactly what they're doing, and the normals you can exploit as per normal. Even though I'm not planning on incorporating that, I don't see an issue with it. I like this. I think this is no, come on, guys. Give me a spice. What's the problem?
After playing Frosthaven and a bunch of Crimson Scales and having multiple conversations, the game doesn't need to be any harder in like arbitrary, random components like this.
Yeah.
I think flavor-wise, yes, it makes sense. And impact on the game, I actually think it has a very minimal impact. So you could probably do it, and it doesn't actually make it that much harder. It's just a slightly more bookkeeping. So I think it's fine. I definitely think anyone who implements this is like, yeah, cool, that makes sense. But from how much stuff there is to remember, right? And
Oh,
we
okay.
were doing this for so long that even we still forget how shit works or forget to move something in a way, et cetera, et cetera. I just feel like maintaining the consistency is just not worth the effort.
Yeah, okay. You
And
think it's a
then
little extra admin on top of admin.
yeah, and then even then you could probably get into some weird conversation which becomes pointless about what's actually the best. Like if something has attack two targets, right? It hits the one that it focuses on and it shoots another one. If all three other people are all within range, how do you
Oh, I
that's
see.
ambiguous. How do you determine that? Like
Who
you
is
can have
it
a mini
worse
conversation.
for? You're on 1 health, it's gonna be you. I
Yeah,
guarantee they would be like, it's not gonna be you, it's gonna be that guy.
well, that's the thing, right? Because at some point, this becomes that you change, or yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine. It's just it potentially creates the situations where you go, no, I'm not going to get it to attack that one because technically it might be worse for this person, but who knows what's going to happen? Let's not lose the scenario because we have a house rule, and then you're just making it up anyway. Like it's weird though because the defaulting to not following the house rules is just following the actual rules. So it's not like you're cheating, but you're cheating a little bit based on the system you've created, and then you're like, no, let's wind it back.
Well, I think it's fair to say, I think Dwarf may have mentioned it as well. The ambiguous part of the actual game where you're actually making those decisions of what would be better for us is part of the strategy, right? It's built into the game. So
Yeah.
that's already been factored into the complexity almost, as if you're presented with an option where it's ambiguous, use that to your advantage in general.
That's kind of what I was getting to is that and that's the conversation when I say, doing this for X amount of time is that's come up multiple times of like, that's built into the difficulty and or strategy and or ability to, we've called it cheese in some instances of like how you can exploit monster AI, but it's almost like that's factored into the game. Like you're supposed to do that a little bit.
Yeah.
So again, when a imp is doing an attack 2 or something's doing multiple attacks, it's almost built into the fact that you can go like, oh no, wait, I can move here and I can force it to attack me second instead of the other person that's going to die. And that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, it's fine.
Which is cool. Yeah, okay. The next one is applying Frosthaven updated rules to Gloomhaven.
That's fine.
This is
That's not
very
even a house
selfish.
rule,
I think
is it?
most people are doing this. I think because I don't remember a lot of the rules in Gloomhaven, but I think the coins was one of the biggest ones where they block spots for spawning or summoning or things like that. And I think that's probably one of the biggest quality of life ones that you can bring over from Frosthaven. And then everything else that comes with that. I can't think off the top of my head. I think it makes sense. It's the later game, right?
Yeah, I think there's things like the advantage rule changed slightly and some other weird
advantage
couple of little bits and pieces that are like that everyone was playing wrong anyway. There was like 8 different versions. And actually, funnily enough, I think I remember seeing a thread or someone mentioned, maybe it was Dwarf, that everyone has been playing how monsters remember what's happened and hasn't remembered differently to what Isaac planned. And when he found that out, he's just like, oh, okay, yeah, just do that. It makes heaps more sense. Like something along, I'm paraphrasing here, but something along the lines of like, there was a really weird, convoluted, complex way of doing it. If a monster is acted and then you open the door and another monster's there, then it does some weird things where it's like, it does. I can't remember exactly, but he's just like, oh no, the way everyone else is doing it seems better. Do that. So that's the kind of shit, right? Like, everyone's doing things wrong anyway. So
Gloomhaven, you can't pass through invisible characters, so they changed that in Frosthaven. Little things like that. The summons, you can actually, when they're not doing anything or don't have a focus, you can bring them back to you. It's pretty cool. I think the difficult terrain doesn't apply to the last hex of a jump.
Yeah, stuff like that. I think overall, most of the changes from that perspective from Gloomhaven to Frosthaven are quality of life, right? A lot of them make the game just slightly more enjoyable and less fiddly. And so I think those are good things to bring in. So 100%.
Yeah. If you have all of your check marks and achieve a battle goal, you receive XP equal to the scenario level. If you have all of your check marks and achieve a battle goal. If you've ticked all the boxes, you run out. Just a nice little boost and an incentive to at least try for the battle goal. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah.
I think they're fun little house rules for everyone else's campaigns to see more, get more enjoyment, give something to strive for. Because after a while, when you reach a certain point and you're not unlocking things as much, little rewards like this help motivate the group.
Yeah, it gives an incentive to do your battle goals once you are pretty much ticked out, right? Like, because you get that late campaign when you start a new character and it's level 4 or 5 and you've unlocked or you've retired 4 or 5 characters. You go, oh, I've basically done 3/4 of my perk sheet and I haven't even done battle goal yet. So you get to the point where you don't really care. You're like doing it from a completionist perspective of like, can I tick all these boxes? So I like the idea of like you get to a point where you can choose to do that or not. I mean, that actually could be a cool optional rule in general of like when you finish a battle goal, you either get a tick or you get XP equal to the scenario level in general. Because some people might like just want a level.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if it messes anything up from a progression perspective, and I feel like the perks are usually always the way to go. But I don't hate that. I think it's a cool way of giving people options when they do some of those goals.
Yeah. This person said the house rules number 1, free respec, and number 2, reapplying road events when replaying a scenario. So whatever happened, I believe the effect. If you start the scenario with wound or if you start with bless or whatever, they're doing it every time if they have to repeat the actual scenario itself. And on the respec one, other than the normal, that's a great idea, we do that and all of that. Someone actually said they prefer forcing the player to donate to the sanctuary. So there's good reason to donate, but instead of getting 2 blesses, you get to respec an ability card or a perk. If you're just respecing the latest card you picked up on the most recent level up, then it's a free respec.
Yeah, I like that. I think having some level of flexibility to do it without it being gamed, because at that point you're just cheating anyway, so it doesn't matter. I think there being some small investment so that people can't just scenario to scenario just change their cards. Spending 10 gold to change a card, I think, is probably pretty fine. Like, it's gold isn't exactly hard to get in Gloomhaven and Crimson Scales, and it's a bit harder in Frosthaven because of what people drop. But late game, it's not. That you can work around it, but you can get it. But having some cost just stops people going like, oh, I'll just choose whatever and I'll just change it later when it's no good, right?
Yeah.
So I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
We have a rule. Oh yeah.
Sorry, with the road event one, I think that should be the rule. I think that if you repeat a scenario without going back to your city, Frosthaven, Gloomhaven, wherever you're going, I think that it should just be like Prince of Persia reverse time. So you restart the scenario
with the same battle goals, same. Yep.
Or no, maybe not battle goals. Maybe you redo the battle goals because that could change. But I don't know. I'd have to think about that. But I think you definitely should the road event impacts and also potentially city event or outpost event, because some of those impacted as well.
They did, yeah.
I feel like they should be just reset to what they were.
It does put a lot more importance on the decision making in the events, I guess, and not just willy-nillying it through, but also it creates almost a little tiny affix or a prefix or something like that for your run for that scenario, which will be that point of difference. You know, that group started with everyone had brittle on them, and that's different to the group that, you know, got to start with curse.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And look, I know that there's arguments to say like, oh, well, in the Ormi one, then you could just restart and Ormi respawns. And it's like, sure, if that's what you want to do, like, I don't actually have a problem with that. If somebody wants to restart the scenario until they can complete it and keep Ormi alive, because maybe they got a real like dog shit hard Ormi scenario, right? Yeah. I'm fine with that. Do it so that you can create a better experience and see what happens when Ormi comes back. Like, I feel like even the gamey versions of that aren't bad for the group's experience.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think that's fine. If you go back though, then no, I don't think it counts. Like if you're like, let's go back and level up and then we'll come back and do this, then no, I think it will reset.
New road event, really.
Yeah, correct. So
we have a rule that if you absolutely destroy an enemy, every enemy that saw it is muddled.
Holy shit. What constitutes as destroy?
If they have 2 health and you do like 10 damage, everyone is off their game for a round due to feeling intimidated. I think it's pretty fun flavor.
I I love the flavor of it, but I'm
Oh, that's
still
what
trying
they
to
wrote.
work out.
I didn't say that.
Oh, as in, which part of that is what they
At the
said?
very end, they said, I think it's pretty fun flavor. They did.
Oh yeah, I think it is as well. Like I think that the flavor is. I don't think mechanically it works. And was their example of if it's on 2 and you deal 10? Is that their example?
Yeah.
So it's if you do 8 over, or just when
apparently.
you feel like
When you feel, it must be when you feel. I don't think you can put a number on feeling, guys.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Look, I think it's fine, and I think that suits groups that are probably a little bit more about the narrative and
RPG side, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing that you do in D&D when you're playing. When it's a non-scripted thing, it's like you absolutely decimate someone, and then you, as the DM or the DM, will make everyone you get a free intimidate check on everybody just because of how badly just like misted that dude, right? I love it. I think it's cool. I think it's really cool.
Someone replied, latched in there, it sounds absolutely horrendous regarding balancing. Don't get me wrong, play however you like, but adding a significant debuff because roleplay might as well play without rules and just RP your way through the campaign.
Standard Reddit response, right? Like, hey, I don't like it, so therefore it's the worst idea ever. Look, again, I wouldn't be suggesting that that's a rule, but if everybody in your group's like, yeah, this is cool, and this makes it really cool when we do a big attack on something with no health, yeah, great. Like, sounds cool. I love it.
I've only read the first line in this, but it sounds interesting. All store items have a full refund policy. If you only used it in the last scenario played and don't like it, return it to the store for its face value. More than one scenario used and it cannot be refunded. It helps correct mistakes. Same for level up card correction. If you pick a new card and didn't like it after one scenario, you can pick a different one as you get a do-over. I actually don't mind that part of respecing from a trialing point of view. Like, I think someone else was saying we do. I think it was like 2 scenarios when you get a new card or you level up. You do 2 scenarios, or it may not be that. It may be when you roll a new character and you start at Prosperity 3 or 4 and your character's level 3 or 4, you've got 2 scenarios to decide on what kind of cards you want to lock in or something like that, which I like. And then finally, if your character is only 1 kill from retiring or a couple XP away from leveling, do it anyway. Waiting for 1 XP on that last imp is stupid.
Yep, I 100% agree. I think that's the best house rule, considering that's happened to me on like at least half a dozen times, right? Like I've been 1 to 2 XP away from leveling. I would love that rule. Yeah, so okay, there's
store
a few
refund policy.
Yeah, again, sure. Like it sounds like we're introducing the retailers here to have like a change of mind returns policy. I think something along that, like store credit maybe, right? So you can go there and they give it to you back in gift vouchers, so you can exchange it for another item. Sure, whatever. Look, I think anything that it's a hard balance, right? Of all of the respec, go again, choose again, like. You need to find the balance between decisions have to matter, because as soon as they don't, then it just becomes really like loosey-goosey. It's just like, oh, at the start of the scenario, just go through whatever cards you want to pick them. And it means that your decisions, like we just had like a 5-minute conversation about your level 5 card. If you could just change that whenever you wanted to, right? That whole conversation doesn't happen. Because you go, oh, you know what, Sever Rally looks pretty good, I'll try that. And then you do it and you're like, nah, I mean, maybe I'll just try Stalking Quarry this week. And that's not the game, right? The game is about these decisions. On the flip side, though, like if you have no feasible way of changing anything when there's a mistake, right? Like, I don't know, you take a card, like say you take Stalking Quarry going, yeah, you know what? I think the bottom's going to be really helpful. And then you find you never need to use it. After 2 or 3 scenarios, you're like, that sucks, because now you don't, it's not even about a power level thing. It's like you're not getting to enjoy potentially a level 5 card, which is, you know, a decent power level. Because of an ability to see into the future you didn't have, right? And I think that comes like with the items. You go, oh, this item should be really good for me, and then you find that it's just not gelling or it's not working. I think that's the part that you go, yeah, it makes sense, you could change it. The only problem is, and this is where this becomes the decisions don't matter, is when you can just do whatever you want. And you're like, oh, okay, oh, wow, this new item came out. I'm just going to get rid of this item and get this item because they've got an unlimited exchange program going. That's when that means that the system doesn't work. So it's hard. It's really hard.
It is. I think you got to play your own fun, and I think that's obviously the message that most people in the community are saying. The only example I can give regarding to those tough decisions is when you play a game like Diablo. You got unlimited lives. You can just run around and try every ability under the sun and everything like that. You know, it's free for all. And then you switch to hardcore, and every decision becomes super important in terms of your build and the ordering of when you're using your skills and all of that. Like, you have to be on point. If you lose your character, it's gone. You have to start again, right? That changed how I felt about softcore. I don't look at softcore the same way now. I still will enjoy a softcore just to maybe learn what I want to do and how I want to do it before I then transfer it into a hardcore setting. But so it still has a place. But when you feel that tension of having to make a tough choice between cards, and even if you make the wrong decision, I think it's still part of that, I don't know, legacy. That's still that story of what you learned from playing a certain character and what you may or may not do differently.
That's part of it as well. I think having, and that's why I think the hard line that they've taken on the actual rules, right? Like, so items sell for half, there's no returns policy. Cards, brought in that optional variant of like respec bids 10 gold per level. So it's not easy to do. Like, I like that they've made it probably overly harsh, because it allows people to slightly tweak it if they think within their group they want a slightly different experience, rather than starting to, like, again, you can respec whenever you want and you can change any items you want. And then people have to almost create a hardcore variant of like an Iron Man mode of like, oh, you can't change cards when you pick them, right? And then it gets, I'd rather it the other way, because then people get to find their fun. And yeah, you're right. The choosing of the cards is almost tailoring. It becomes more your character. Like, you chose this combination, and it's cool when you figure out your own combos. Whereas if it's just a case of like, oh, I got to this level and then I changed these 3 cards because it works better there. We didn't really make any decisions, did you? You just picked a better hand once you had options, which, yeah, cool. I mean, I think if you're trying to do everything on +1/+2, you probably need to play like that.
Yeah, okay.
Right? But I feel like, the way most people play it, it's fine without it.
Yeah. We've got a Frosthaven one here. All city attacks are removed from the deck. The walls and barracks are removed from the game. City attacks simply cost too much time for no effect, 95% of the time.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm already looking at the next one.
The thing is, I think this can just be broadly said to everything. Anytime you just want to remove a part of the game because you're not enjoying it, that's fine. I wouldn't call that a house rule more than you're just changing the game.
Yeah. Okay.
And at that point, I don't even think that it's a suggestion of what others should do. I think it's more just like, I changed this. That's fine. You do it, but you deal with that.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of long-winded ones here, like that I can't really read through at the moment. There's a quick one here. Doors count as obstacles. So let the crag hut push an enemy through the door, or the demolitionist blow it up for an explosive entry.
Okay. So they count as obstacles for cards that interact with obstacles.
Yeah,
I don't mind that actually.
Yeah,
I think if you've got cards like yours, you just got that Sever Reality, like destroy an adjacent obstacle. I love the idea that you
punch
could
the thing behind it.
Well, not even the punching part, but like just the idea that you could stand next to the door and use a card. It's like the stick, right? We talked about like the door opening stick from Frosthaven. You'd have cards that can interact with that. I think that's really cool, actually.
If we play on someone's birthday, then we unlock an extra random item design.
Sure, why not? Happy birthday.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Monsters take their turn in order from closest to farthest to the one moving the pieces. Usually me. I just cannot be bothered to keep track of the standee numbers. Elites still go before normal enemies because I'm not a monster.
Hey, any rules that are there because you can't be bothered? Sure, why not?
Dude. Here. This is probably what we've been waiting for. My group uses the permadeath variant usually, and we have modified it so when you're out of cards, you still got to move 2 action on initiative 99, so you can try to limp out to safety. For most dungeons, safety is the starting tile or any exit tile. Occasionally, in some dungeons like Noxious Cellar, I don't know that one, we have to adjust to fit the story. We find this is more balanced than the variant rule of where you just have to sit there and hope the others win or you die, but it also keeps the game balanced still. That's a really interesting take. Yeah. I like the fact that you exhaust, but you still get to move to and try and wait. How does that work?
What do you mean?
Well, in my head, it was like do you still get targeted and attacked? Probably not. But you still do.
Well,
but when you get exhausted,
you're going at 99.
Yeah, but usually? Oh, okay. Yeah, because they're not talking exhausted from health loss. They're talking exhausted from cards. So you probably still have a health pool.
Yes, because even if you burned all your cards to not take damage, then you could do that. Yeah. If I think people playing on hardcore in Frosthaven or Gloomhaven are absolutely crazy. And I don't hate this as a way of adding more cool storylines to it and also allowing the group to kind of it's like an Ormy situation, right? Like you go, oh no, Daddy's run out of cards and he's on 5 health. We have to now escort him or at least get him out of the danger zone so he can limp back to the end. I don't hate that idea.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
So, yeah. That's cool.
This guy's got a little list. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down or nod or shake. Announce our initiative. It helps when needing to plan. I mean, of course it does, but...
No.
Announce which battle goals we took.
No.
Cards that generate XP, you still get the XP even if you couldn't do the thing. Like an attack, but there was no targets or you aren't close enough, unless you choose to do basic attacks and moves.
No.
3 for 3.
Just to be clear, the yes or no is just saying, no, I don't think we would use this in our game. Sure, do what you want. But
yeah, you can sugarcoat however much you hate this person as much as you like.
I know, that's fine if that's what you want to do. But 2 of those 3, one of them fundamentally changes how the game plays. Right?
Announcing our initiative.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going at this thing. That's just changes the entire game. I feel like at that point, if you're doing that, you probably just need to drop the difficulty because then the timing of it doesn't matter as much. They did mention they are aware that it's probably game breaking, but it makes it more enjoyable for them. Yeah, sure.
And then trading of gold and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. We have a rule that lets say you have a move 4 action, but you only want to move 3 spaces away. If there's a coin in your path, you may use a move action to pick it up. So, for example, move 2 and land on a coin, use move 3 to pick it up, and then move again. Oh, I see. So it's using one of the move charges to loot in the spot.
Okay. So you can pick things up along the way by using
pretty much
one of your move. Okay. Sure.
That's pretty busted.
Yeah. Looting isn't that hard if you try. You don't really need to change it, but yeah. Sure.
New characters inherit the money of the retiring character so they can purchase better items and or enhancements, to which someone says that would remove the joy of slow progression over the course of the character to me. Part of the fun is getting better stuff over the first 5 to 8 scenarios. I am 100% in agreement with that. I love the idea of going in with bare bones nothing and then slowly piecing together, and it's all part of the character progression and getting stronger and feeling more comfortable, right?
I agree with that, but... Sorry, I agree with that, and I think that's how you should play, and that's why we play like that. I do see there being a thing, and I don't know how you'd work it out properly, of I don't like that when you retire a character, you vendor all their stuff, sell all their stuff to the merchant, and then just buy enchantments. I think that's dumb, right? I feel like there needs to be something in the game that allows that you do something else with that money. Right. One, because I don't think the replayability of the characters is really that realistic, considering how many characters there are. If you're going to play just the Blink Blade forever, then you deal with that yourself. You can do that. That's fine. Whatever. And the enchantment can roll over. But I do like the idea that you start off bare bones, but I feel like there should be something else that the money or the things that you do with go to. Right?
Yeah, Sanctuary of the Oak has a coffer box, right? You retire, you sell all your stuff, you end up on 97 gold, you put it in there, and then you've got little check boxes on the campaign sheet. And the more money it fills up, it reaches these milestones that then grant new items, new blueprints, new something like that. And yeah, so that that would give you something to dump the money into, so you don't have to enhance if you're not planning on playing it again, while still progressing the group and the campaign towards some other juicy unlocks that can be dictated from someone who's not me.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, there needs to be something else. And I don't think donating it to the next character you make is the best thing, because it does kind of mess that up a bit. Then maybe it's okay if you can't use the gold that you just got from selling everything. But yeah, it would be cool if you could do that and then set up the other characters in some kind of way.
Yeah, okay. I got one more here, and then I'm going to move on to a quick last question before we wrap up. If your first card generates an element, your second card can consume it. It feels more thematic to us and more intuitive. It's also just more permissive, allowing for more cool combos. I realize it might overpower some characters a little, but we don't care, and at worst, just bump the difficulty up a level.
I mean, it's fine. It's just changing the way that the game works. The fact that I do love people who throw "I don't care" in there, because they clearly potentially know that it's a problem, and they're like, just YOLO, do what you want.
It's still contributing to the conversation, which is appreciated, especially when for when we get to do this. So
yeah. Yeah, they're like, damn it, for all those people out there that are going to online review us. The other thing is, though, that if you know that you need to bump the difficulty up, then you know that it's making it more powerful. But, like, again, if it's giving you more fun, then sure. Like, it's just kind of making, yeah. I think for most characters, it's fine. There's probably a couple that it is really busted with.
The next person actually made a comment on this and said, it's not only overpowering your character, but it's debuffing the enemy. Because sometimes it's a risk-reward thing to cast an element which could also be consumed by the next monster. Which is, I didn't even think of that.
I don't know if it happens that often that you are creating an element and then you also could have consumed it in the same turn but then they draw something and they're going to eat it. Like that, yes, there is a situation that happens, but I think it happens so infrequently that I don't know if that would play into it.
Okay.
But yeah, okay, interesting. I think at that point, like if you're just creating and consuming your own elements, it also reduces the teamwork aspect. Which,
yeah, okay.
I think is probably more of a loss than the difficulty. Like talking to people, hey, can you create this? Yes, but I need it. Okay, cool. Well, but I can make it. And then that's a cool kind of that changes the way
I love talking like that with you. Like as soon as you tell me, actually, yes, I can make that for you, there's like dopamine that hits and I'm just like getting all excited. Like, oh, that's one less thing I have to think about for this round and that's going to make this better. And yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a cool tactical teamwork element where the element is not up at the start of the round, but you can play your turn and consume it. And I think it feels really cool when you can plan around that rather than it having to only ever be like you bank and consume. So yeah, it doesn't take that away, but I guess it does in a way.
Yeah. Overall, none of us are shitting on any of these at all. I actually enjoy reading it because I find it entertaining and it's a fun conversation with Gaz. But also, yeah, there are some really interesting things. And every time we cover one of these lists, there are just new ones coming in that I hadn't thought of, and it allows us to look at it from a different point of view. So keep them coming.
Yeah, totally. Like it is. It's again, we've talked about this heaps. Do what you want, and it takes me back to when I was a lot younger and I would played Hero Quest, and I'd play that to death as a kid. I would start creating my own custom scenarios and add in a few extra little rules and change things around. And I never really done anything with it because I was a kid. So maybe I should have stuck with it. But it wasn't until maybe the last few years and I looked into it, and there's because it kind of got rebooted. And it was but I think before it got rebooted, but now there's heaps more content. There was like a whole community of like Hero Quest mods and stuff like that. I was just like, oh wow, that's really cool. So this almost feels like that. Like I can kind of imagine that there's no more havens, right? In 10 years time, people potentially are picking up the game, and then that's probably where Crimson Scales came from, right? Like there was no more Gloomhaven, so people made their own haven, and that's what a lot of these rules kind of go into.
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't end up like Monopoly, where everyone has a different like rule on how free parking works, for example. So
yeah. amDirt plays Monopoly coming soon.
Yes, amDirt Monopoly. It just all says no. The
question I have for you is, we're following Frosthaven rules for our Crimson Scales campaign, but there's one thing that I'm wondering whether we should adopt from Gloomhaven, and that is prosperity and new characters. So when you roll a new character in Gloomhaven, you can level it up to the level of your prosperity. But in Frosthaven, it's half. It's half your prosperity rounded up. Now,
Ah,
yes. So if we do the Frosthaven way, characters will stay lower, right? They'll start lower, which is not a big issue. It just means we don't fly through it as quickly. You know, it stops us from, because once we hit prosperity 8, we're making level 4 characters, right? But on the flip side, once in Gloomhaven, because right now I think we're prosperity 2, so we're still only making level 1s. Is that a problem?
it's one of those weird things where it's not a problem now, but it becomes a problem later. So, like,
Does
if we switched to Gloomhaven rule, creating a level 2 character with our current party is fine, right? Even if we get to prosperity 3 and somebody retires soon and then creates a level 3 character, that's fine, right? And then we've got ways that we can manipulate that. I think the problem is when you get to, and it's probably 4, 5 and above, and then you're creating a character and you're starting at level like 5. I think at that point the fun is diminished because there's no, like, it's kind of what you're talking about with the starting poor and kind of earning your way into the character. Starting at level 5, I mean,
So
I don't
this
know.
change doesn't really impact us from a how fast we see a game. It will accelerate the new cards for characters we create, but that's it. It doesn't mean that the campaign's going to be longer or shorter. It's not going to do any of that, is it?
No,
It's
no,
not.
it
Yeah.
would change that. Yeah, and I don't even think it really changes how quickly we see characters, unless being higher level lets you do your PQ quicker, which in some cases it will, some cases it won't. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know.
Frosthaven?
Pardon?
Frosthaven just makes the most sense from, I guess, what we enjoy. Like
Yeah, well,
starting low.
it'd be an interesting question of like, and I'm not sure if anybody actually knows rather than just can guess, because we can guess as well. But I'm curious whether it was changed because the prosperity system in Frosthaven was changed, or if it was changed because it wasn't really what they wanted. So I don't know if
From
they
Gloom
changed
to
the scale.
Frost.
Yeah, yeah. Like, do you get like prosperity? Did they keep the prosperity gain the same, right, from
Hmm.
Frosthaven to Gloomhaven? And then they just said, okay, but you only get half when
Yeah,
you
okay.
bring your character, or did they go, oh well, we want to give more prosperity because I know that prosperity was used to unlock certain things in Frosthaven, and we want to give more prosperity. But we don't want characters to be starting off really high level, so we had to bring. I don't know what that is. So
Yeah. I see what you
yeah, we'll just
mean.
keep doing Frosthaven. It's fine.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, obviously, I mean, our community can tell us their 2 cents on this exact topic and whether or not they have a recommendation. I'm thinking it's most likely going to be Frosthaven, just so that we still feel like we're progressing them from a lower thing. That's what works for us.
Yep.
It feels good.
Yeah, I think even still, I'd go with my system, regardless of which system we land on. I'm going to go with my system of starting at level 1 with whatever level health that I would have, and then giving myself a level every scenario until I get to what I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then just track the XP I would have gotten and then add it. Yeah, like it sounds weird and complex, but it's quite simple. So that I get to work through what a level 1 character cards that a level 1 character have access to, and then gaining one and then gaining one. So I kind of get the feel of progressing through. It also helps me better inform my choices, but it
Yes.
does keep me from a perspective of saying like, no, I'm going to start level 1 when we should be level 4, because that also impacts the group. Because if everyone's
Yeah.
running around a level 5, 6, 7 characters, and I'm like, I'm level 1, then you can feel really underpowered, especially if you've got a character with low health. Like you start with 6 when everyone else has like, 12 plus, and monsters are all hitting for 5 damage. Like, it's kind of like playing my character now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, really stressful, right? And the thing is that I'm able to, the character I'm playing has the ability to not be in the front line. But can you imagine playing the Chain Guard, right?
Yeah.
Where you have 8 health and everyone else, and monsters are hitting for 5 plus damage all the time? You'd feel like you couldn't play properly.
No.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I see. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I like your way of doing it. And I probably will do the same thing when we retire. I think are you gonna retire next week? Or tomorrow?
Depends on
Okay.
the gods, the fate of the gods.
And by that I mean, are you going to unlock your last scenario? I probably will. I probably will next week.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, it looks like it's weird because I was way ahead, not way ahead, but I was a fair bit ahead, but I stalled 2 weeks and then I didn't play this week. So that's actually been 3, which is, it kind of is a bit shit because it means that we're potentially both going to unlock our scenarios in the same time, and then we go like, 2-button
No,
meme,
you can
right?
go first. It's fine. You're higher in XP, so you're further ahead. So that makes sense to do it first.
It also means that Wynitz has to wait another week before we unlock his class.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah.
He doesn't listen to the pod, so he won't hear that.
No, he won't. Thanks again for listening to a master's degree in rolling terribly. If you enjoy our work and want us to keep going, you can show your support by simply subscribing to our YouTube channel. Every sub means a lot to us, and it keeps us motivated to try and bring our best. And remember, yeah, go.
Oh, I was gonna more pluggy stuff before we. Yeah, I threw it just quickly. I threw it up. I should have said this at the start in the dirt sheet thing, but I threw up a poll of to see if people would be interested. I want to play my solo scenario for the Galaxy. I don't think I will have time to do it in person because of, unless we ended up with another scenario that we finished really quickly and everyone went home. So I was going to do it on TTS, and I was going to do it on TTS regardless, just to do it, to see the item, to play through the content and talk about it. I was going to try to record it. I was going to talk to you about that. So, hey, surprise. We'll talk about that. But at the same point, I was like, wow, I wonder if anyone's actually interested in like watching me fuck it up live. So I put a poll on there just to see, and I have no idea how we work this out. Pardon? In our Discord, sorry, yes. Maybe, I don't know if we chuck it up on the YouTube as well, but I don't know how we'd work it out with time zones, although I've looked, and I think based on going back to our East Coast, West Coast thing, I think that there's a weird time zone that I could pick that is kind of early-ish morning for us, that lands somewhere between like early evening, late afternoon, and late, like early evening-ish for the US. And if I picked that so that was their Friday or Saturday night, that might work. We could actually have almost, or people don't have to be there to interact, so it's less like the amGood situation where people have to kind of commit for 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
It would just be like, hey, if you've got time, jump on. But if you think that that's a good idea, and you would watch that, let me know, because I don't want to do it if no one's going to rock up, because it's a lot of effort and probably playing at a weird time for me to do, and also very nerve-wracking. But yeah, if people are interested, let me know. And if we have more than, I don't know, 10 people that are actually going to rock up, then yeah, sure, I'm happy to do it. Maybe do it on Twitch or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we can try and set that up.
Yeah, I just want to get general community thoughts on whether they would be interested in watching me do the Galaxy solo scenario.
Yeah. Have you looked into it yet?
I have not at all.
No,
no.
Neither
Yeah. So I figure that either way I'll do it. It just might record it in some way. So yeah.
Yeah. And remember, Verba, I've been your host, Eddie, and I've been joined again by Gaz.
Sorry. And remember? Why did you say I remember? You've confused me. I thought you.
Yeah, because I want to.
And what do you usually say?
That was my bit.
Remember? Do you say remember as well?
No, I added that.
Oh, that's what
I just said. Remember, I've been your host, Eddie. I've been joined again by Gaz.
Giving me shit. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So now I have to mumble remember. Just remember the something of November. When it comes to rolling terribly, it is all in the wrist.